The question, do we have intelligence? Do we have solid evidence that there is some incident that could occur or some kind of harm that could be visited on people attending the event? And was given no answer to that question other than we did an assessment, it was a high risk, and we made and I made the decision on that basis. My view, as I expressed to him, is that if you're going to be making decisions just on that basis, without providing more information to the public, then you are sending a message that events such as this in El Paso and other parts of the border are going to result in cancellation of events, because you're always going to have a high risk as long as there's cartel violence happening on the other side of the border. I also talked to the producer, the promoter rather, Bob Aram, this morning, and he is willing to wait 48 hours or so, he said, for a response from the system. Otherwise, he says he will consider moving it elsewhere, and at the same time added that he is willing to provide whatever additional security or whatever measures need to be taken that they have sometimes provided in other fights that have occurred across the country. And from his end of it, he's willing to cooperate in any fashion that he can. So I think we are trying to do everything possible to impress upon them the importance of this decision. I've got a call into the Lieutenant Governor, who is tied up in some campaign events today, and we're going to continue making whatever efforts we can make to impress upon the state that this decision is simply not acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Commander Lopez, did you want to say anything, please?
Good afternoon. On behalf of Sheriff Richard Wiles, I just wanted to say, as you know, El Paso, this is not the first big event that we've hosted. We've hosted many, many big events, some probably even larger than this. And the mere fact that we have a rumor out there or whatever, that should not weigh upon whether or not we go on with this event. We always have contingency plans for these type of events. As everybody has said before us, we do cooperate very well amongst each other. And to cancel an event of this magnitude based on, well, not really know what it is, if nothing being specific or nothing credible is inappropriate, and it hurts the city, and it hurts our citizens. So, and also just to let you know, as of today, the Sheriff's Office has also not received any credible threats at all regarding this specific event.
Thank you, Commander. Judge, did you want to say something?
Just briefly, thank you, Mayor, for hosting this. I'd like to thank the city manager for her swift action, and all local officials, as well as members of the media. A couple of really important things to take away from this press conference. First and foremost, it's clear that the decision is going to be made fairly quickly by the event organizer. And so the more quickly, obviously, that we get the information to the Chancellor about the fact that federal and local law enforcement do not see a credible threat, that's important information to get to him as soon as possible. The other message I think that it's important to deliver is that the damage he is doing to the community is significant. And when you have community officials rally around an issue like this, it's because it's important to our citizenry, but it's also important to the future of events and economic development, investment, jobs, conventions, etc. And so what may seem like a decision that the Chancellor is making on just this one particular issue, a decision that many of us believe is misguided. He is making a decision that will impact the future of this community in a very negative way. And so we want him to be aware of that. Thank you.
Sal Payan is here representing the Congressman's office, and I know the Congressman has been in touch with the Chancellor, and you can just update us on that, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Joyce, thank you. Mr. Morgan, Mr. Arabic, Chief. The Congressman called the Chancellor this morning very early about he was on his way back to Washington. He called him from Dallas and reiterated to him that to please reconsider this whole action he's taken. He inquired about it. Subsequently, he's been in conversation with Chief Allen and Sheriff Wiles, and Congressman Reyes is very satisfied with their assessment of the situation. Of course, he's a former law enforcement. He knows how they work. He knows what they go through, and he's very satisfied with the situation as they see it. And as most of you know, Congressman Reyes has been constantly harboring on this issue that please don't characterize El Paso as a violent city. It's not fair to the city. It's not fair to the region. We've worked far too long to continue to do this. And like Judge Escobar said, the damage is significant to the community, to our facilities here, to the university, and it's not fair. Thank you.
The last comment that I really want to make, unless any of the other elected officials want to speak, you're more than welcome. But this really came as a big surprise to all of us, and there's some other inherent dangers if we're not successful in overcoming this. And the two big dangers that I see is number one, we have a bond issue that is supposed to include rehabbing the Sun Bowl. I would hate to see a negative action by the Chancellor result in that bond issue either not taking place or not being successful because the community became so outraged at what the UT system did to us. The second thing is there's some important transportation projects which some of us are trying to get moved up on the agenda from 2023 on the Transportation Policy Board to 2012-2013. The chances of those making it through all of the elected officials become slimmer if you have this bad taste left in our mouth over this. And the last point I'll leave you with is some of the designations that we've received as a community, and we've been working hard to try to use these as our bragging points around the nation. Number 2, top 10 comeback cities in 2012. Number 2, America's best performing cities in 2011. One of the best cities for jobs in 2011. The number 1 best sized mid-city for jobs created in 2011. Number 7, the happiest U.S. city, place to work. And I always like everybody smiling when I say that one. And number 1, top 10 heart cities of 2011. Number 4, best city to find a job in 2011. And number 1, best can-do city. And of course, the number 1 safest large city in the United States. Safer than Arlington, which is where the Chancellor lives. So I've invited him to come and live with us because it's safer here. And I told him I would be more than happy to compare crime statistics with Arlington. The final thing that I would say is that it's the actions that we're going to take from this point on. There will be a letter going out to the Chancellor's office from my office today. I know that the letters have already gone out from all of our state delegation. I want to thank them for uniting so quickly under Senator Rodriguez's leadership. I've encouraged all of the rural mayors to send their letters also to the Chancellor. A letter from my office will be going out today, and Judge Escobar has indicated that they will be sending a letter out. I put an item on Tuesday's council agenda, a resolution condemning the Chancellor. Hopefully he'll change his position between now and then, and we'll be able to delete that item from the agenda. With that, I'll open it up to questions from the media if you have any.
Mr. Mayor, is there anything that people in El Paso can do, that our viewers can do to help change this decision?
Well, for right now, let's just be patient, and I believe in the power of prayer. Let's pray for the Chancellor that he becomes enlightened.
So several of you spoke with Figueroa, evidently. I know you did, Mayor. We attempted to get to him. We're not able to do so yesterday and today. Is it safe to say that nobody got a straight answer out of him about what this is about?
When we asked what the specific threat was, he said they could not tell us. He said that to me. He said that to the city manager. So we're going on the only thing that we can identify is the rumor mill, which you brought up already, Darren.
Okay, but if they can't, I mean, if they can't give an answer to you, that seems awful odd, even if they gave it to you and you couldn't give it to us, I could understand. But they can't even give an answer to the leaders of the city and federal agencies here about what this is about. Maybe the federal agencies need to know what his
I can
issue
tell you
is, so they
this,
don't.
if there was a credible threat to this community, it should be shared with all law enforcement people. You would think that they would have the need to know. And it's really very unfair for us to have to read between the lines and try to figure out what they were looking at when they came up with their assessment. We're going by the assessment that that the FBI has made and the analysis that both the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department had input to that. So our position is there is no known credible threat, period.
If they don't overturn the decision on the Sun Bowl, is Cohen Stadium a possible option, and what has to happen to make that happen?
We're looking at that right now at any possible venue that we could have that would be located in the El Paso region that we could have control over. Whether or not the Cohen Stadium is a good venue I mean, we had 40,000 people at that fight. Now with the media coverage, I'm sure that there's probably going to be a lot of people who want to come and see this fight. So I don't know if any facility other than the Sun Bowl is big enough to accommodate it. But we're looking. Other questions?
I have a question for the
Carla?
FBI.
When you can find out that the city wanted also to build an arena, they oppose the bond. I received some comments that they even threat to some city officials about it. Do you think that this finally proves what the city needs to have their own venue?
Well, I think Joyce made that point, and I think that that is an important point, that we probably need something that we control. I'm sure that if the county commissioners still controlled the venue, that we wouldn't be having this conversation or this press conference today.
Some city representatives told me that they are interested to see if the city can take control over the Sun Bowl. Do you think that is a possibility?
I don't think we have the power of eminent domain over the UT system. If you look at the hierarchy of who has power over who, I don't think either the county or the city would have the ability to do that.
Now, the stadium is turned over one day a year to the Sun Bowl to run their events. Is there any clause of any kind in that deal when it went in eminent domain to give you a day where you take it back over? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware of. Yes, sir.
Question for the FBI. Even if it's not a credible threat, the rumors are coming through. Is there anything new about this threat? Is there any reason to believe that there's a new part to this threat? It sounds like you guys know the situation. Even if it's just a rumor, is there some reason to think that there's a new threat made to Mr. Cesar Chavez Jr.?
Again, what I would say is that we know of no known credible threat. So you speak of threats, and at this time we know of known credible, specific, direct threat. Sure, there is information, some raw, some factual, that are categorized as risk factors, but you have that with every special event. And there's a difference between raw intelligence and factual information that fits in the categories of risk factor indicator versus a threat. And that's really the key here. And again, I don't mean to keep repeating myself, but I think it's key that there's no specific direct threat that we know of. Sure, there's risk indicators, and part of the assessment that all law enforcement does is when we know of a risk indicator, we drill down on that. We will monitor that, we'll look at that. As Mr. Urban said, we'll take our sources, both the human and technical collection, and we'll run that to the ground to make sure that that's all it is a risk indicator, and it hasn't crossed the line into a threat.
And remember, the analysis, anytime a major event like this takes place, the FBI has a responsibility of doing the analysis to find out if there are credible threats and analyze the risk. Their analysis showed that 99.9% everything's cool. So how you can take that assessment from the people who do the assessment and then conclude that there's a higher risk than normal is beyond me. Maybe they're Aggies.
Mayor, you said that a resolution condemning the chancellor. I know everybody's upset with him, but what are you condemning him to exactly here on this resolution?
Condemning his decision,
Okay.
based on no known credible threat. I mean, 2 + 2 should equal 4, not 5.
Any truth to a new police chief at UT who